Over the years, I've seen two worlds of business collide. The high-velocity world of technology, often associated in our minds with the West Coast of the United States, Google, Apple, OpenAI, and then the world of incumbents with well-fortified brands and businesses. Think Procter & Gamble, JP Morgan, MetLife. Market turbulence that once was the domain of the West Coast tech world has seeped into the world at large. Today, I'll unpack some of what it is I've observed, what I've learned from lived experience, and I'm going to offer some rules of thumb for how to navigate turbulence with increasing confidence. So being at peace with turbulence. It all began nearby where we are today. Those of you who are in the Boston area or from the Boston area will know another body of water not far from Walden Pond, the Cambridge Reservoir. And above the reservoir was a road, I think it's still there, Totten Pond Road. And at the time, this was a place that lots of startups had their headquarters, including mine. My first and one of my greatest life adventures began here. I was privileged to work very closely at the time with some phenomenal technologists and great inventors who were also incredible human beings. Back when the internet was young and internet innovation was fast and furious. My partners were software wizards and networking geniuses who made stunning contributions to today's modern internet. I think they would mostly be delighted about the world and how far we've come since then. Would that their lives had not been cut short. But that's a story for another time. My early takeaway is actually not about the great technology adventures we had, which were pretty great. It was another kind of adventure altogether, flying in small planes. Two of my co-founders, in addition to being technologists, were very accomplished pilots. And about that time, we had been starting to do a fair amount of work in New York, traveling between Boston and New York. It was about the time that Wall Street discovered the early internet and workstation technology, and we were riding that wave. And so we decided, well, given the travel we're doing, why don't we take the small plane? Because then we could make the trip when we wanted to make the trip, and we could come and go as we please. Now, there was only one problem with that plan: turbulence. If you've ever flown in one of those small planes, you know that you feel absolutely every little bump of rough air. I felt like a pinball rattling around in the back of that plane. I can still today feel how much I actually hated riding in the back of that plane. And it took me a while, but after a while I figured, I've got to do something about this. So I learned to use the radio, which gave me a reason to ride shotgun in the front of the plane. Next to my buddy who was the pilot, and I could look out and see, and even though there was still turbulence, I was okay, because I could watch him do the course correction for smoother air. Sitting up front gave me a sense of confidence, a sense of control. I wasn't flying the plane, of course, but I did have a different perspective. A simple shift, back of the plane, front of the plane, where I could inspect the world around, made all the difference. Now, some years later, I found myself in another wave of internet innovation. Web 1.0 and the dot-com phenomenon was firing on all cylinders. It was a time of the great happiness, as some of us called it, when all boats were rising, right? I was a co-founder of one of these high-flying internet companies, and so I thought, I have a front of the plane seat for navigating turbulence. My job was to chart a path for my company through turbulence to become a household name, perhaps, an enduring company for sure. I can remember thinking, this is a company that the world really needs for years to come. And in fact, the idea was pretty good. The timing was off. My company didn't ride the wave to safety. In tech, it's well known that if you're too early or too late, it's equivalent to being wrong. So, I had failed. And I really, really felt that failure. Being wrong this time felt like whiplash, not small plane turbulence. I had missed something big. So now this leads me to my first rule of thumb. I thought that disruption was all about technology and its evolution. But what I learned is that disruption never happens because of the technology itself. It's always a collision of megatrends. Trends in behavior, what it is that people want to pull into their lives. Societal trends, what society does or does not accept, often enforced through regulation. And then the evolution of technology in lockstep with those behavioral and societal trends. Let's take this to the present and look ahead. What does this mean? It means that one way to sort through turbulence is to examine trends in human behavior and policy and how those intersect with the evolution of technology. Why is it, for example, that EVs, driverless cars, e-bikes, electric scooters, the whole mobility explosion, why is this so disruptive? Now, I submit the growing desire and global policy trends toward net zero and a nature-positive future are intersecting with the convenience of buying a car online and having it serviced while it's sitting in my driveway with an over-the-air download. There are other inconveniences, clearly, that have to be solved for the EV revolution to really take root, like greater availability of charging stations, for instance. But the trend line is predictable. I could go on. For example, my smartphone interacts with 5G, Apple Pay, or Google Play, and is upending the way commerce happens, right? How a smart TV is delivering personalized video, which is upending the way that linear TV and the whole TV world operated. My phone is my wallet. My wallet's my phone. My TV shows me what I want and when I want it. I have a supercomputer now in my pocket. All of you do, I'm sure, right? And I expect more personalized services to know me and give me more of what I want and less of what I don't. Same for my entertainment expectations and my smart TV. So then, disruptive forces are much more knowable, I'd argue, and the question should shift from will disruption happen to when will it hit, and am I prepared, moving on the right course at the right speed? And most important, what do I do next? Which leads me to my second rule of thumb. Small steps, systematically taken, lead to big things. When disruptive forces hit and outcomes seem inevitable, digital wallets, streaming TVs, computerized cars, timing really matters, as I have learned the hard way, right? It's not just the ability to look out and about that matters, it's judging the distance from here to there. I've often seen this tendency to greet big disruptive potential with big at-bats, swinging for the fences. Now, there is a logic here, right? If some new opportunity is truly disruptive, then let's make sure that we don't underinvest. Let's go at it with all possible vigor. Now, big swings, unfortunately, though, can have the big disadvantage of expending a lot of resource and a lot of energy too soon and with little to no result. A swing and a miss can also dampen enthusiasm, sap confidence, and lead to false negatives. Instead of that big, bold swing that concentrates all expectation and energy on a single desired outcome, the more useful approach is a portfolio of well-crafted experiments, to test different pathways to the future, and to learn about market timing. Now, here's where the two worlds of business, the startup world, the world of incumbents, can learn actually from each other. The venture world has a good model that has demonstrated results over 4 to 5 decades. It's for startups, not incumbents, so it certainly needs some tuning for the unique challenges of incumbents. And I can testify that it's actually kind of painful as an operator to be in that model, but as a model, it's pretty good. Limited investment, or what we call seed stage, to create a product. You have the product, the next level of investment, maybe a little bit bigger, we call it Series A, to go get some customers. You have some customers, very interesting. Now that we're building conviction, time for Series B investment and beyond to build a real company around the product and its customers. Staged investment. If you're a venture investor, you're okay with some percentage of your portfolio companies not making the full journey. 4 out of 10 for some is okay. If, however, you're an incumbent leader, this is not a great hit rate, right? You want and you need to improve the hit rate. But how? Let's take the current hot topic right now, Gen AI, generative AI, right? After all, no tech type talk would be complete without referring to generative AI or to AI just in general. If I'm an incumbent, what might Gen AI mean for my business? Does it apply best to customer acquisition or to customer service? Complex or routine processes? And will my workforce morph their ways of work to embrace new AI-powered tasks, or will they reject? This is a great example of having a clear view. AI will reinvent work, and it will create new value. But never confuse a clear view with a short distance. The pace of adoption is less well known. Well-crafted experiments can make the unknown better known. Which leads me to my third rule of thumb. Know when to hold them, know when to fold them. Now here again, incumbents can learn important lessons from startups. Now, startups can also learn from, and perhaps in the right context, really benefit from incumbent advantage. In a startup context where resource constraints are my friends and time is my enemy, I have to find a way. I have to be more right than wrong about some fundamental questions. Is there actually a good product market fit? Am I too early? Or are there enough of the right kind of customers who have a problem that I can solve and solve uniquely? And probably most important, do I have enough of a runway to make it to the next big milestone, right? These are all super important questions that can only be answered with active experimentation. It's not observation, active experimentation. Experiments have the advantage of creating real, observable, sometimes painful, data to either pivot or persevere. At some point, though, enough data is, enough. At some point, we have sufficient conviction. It's time to lock the jaw and double down. No more bobbing and weaving, no more looking to the left or the right. It's time to persevere, not pivot. It's time to show grit and tenacity, to stay the course and become more valuable, worthy of the next big round, ideally an up round, as they call it, and from ideally prestige investors. So what's happening here? What's happening? When the way is not clear, then experiments and humility win the day. With more confidence and clarity, though, it's time for tenacity and grit to kick in. The venture investor actually wants to see both traits in their startup leaders: humility and openness when warranted, grit and tenacity to take market turbulence head on and turn it into a growth advantage. As confidence builds and market forces become more clear, it's time to shift from experiments to initiatives, from learning to building, and from building to winning. In other words, it's time to hold them, not fold them. So today I framed 3 rules of thumb informed by my lived experience between 2 worlds of business, worlds that I actually, both of these worlds I love. The world of tech and startups, the world of incumbents. There are plays from the playbook of tech and startups that can be adapted and adopted by incumbents as a way of thriving in the face of market turbulence. And I'd submit this is relevant beyond just business. These rules can actually be simple behavioral shifts that we can all make when faced with a turbulent world more generally. First, disruption is never just about technology. It results from a collision of megatrends. So this is a time for looking up, observing the signs and the trends, and asking crisp questions about course and speed of the forces at work. Framing the right questions is much more important than pushing for answers. Second, armed with those questions, turn them into active test and learn actions, right? Experiment your way to the future with increasing conviction. Here the key is to hold back from swinging for the fences too soon. And third, with increasing conviction, it's time to weaponize your scale advantages. It's time to hold them, not fold them, and act with grit and tenacity to work your way through turbulence to a better future. Thank you.